Hello friends, my name is Ramasu. Today we shall discuss about topic the product backlog definition. Friend, today's topic is very interesting, especially if you have interest in project management and software development and you want to learn about it. So let's start, friend. Product backlog is basically a document. Which contains all the features, requirements, enhancements, bug fixes, and technical things for a product. Product backlog is a very important document artifact in a Scrum framework. Scrum is a basically framework which based on the agile and the incremental approach in which we deliver the things to the customer on a incremental basis, or you can say the chunk basis. Like with each sprint is a 3 to 4 week time period, we deliver the things to the customer. So the product backlog is a key artifact in a Scrum framework and is managed by the product owner. Okay, now the dynamic and prioritized list. First thing is that, friend, product backlog is dynamic in nature, means that it is dynamically constantly evolving, changing with based on the feedback and changes in business priorities or emerging requirements. Means that whenever we do the sprint review session with the customer, with the stakeholder, so based on their feedback we can evolve, we can change the product backlog. Product backlog is totally the responsibility of the product owner. He has the authority to make changes in the product backlog. Then a product backlog is always prioritized list, means that the items or requirements were mentioned in the product backlog are always in the prioritized list, means the highest priority always are on the top and the lowest low priority are on the bottom means. And this priority is basically set by customer, and product owner is basically person who maintain this priority in the product backlog document. Then owned by the product owner, means the product owner is responsible for creating, maintaining, prioritizing the product backlog. Basically, product owner is a person who collaborates with business persons, stakeholders, customers, and the development team to gather input and ensure that the backlog reflects the most valuable features and improvements. So whenever he has a discussion, for example discussion with the customer during the sprint review session or sprint retrospective session, so based on the feedback from customer, from the development team, he make changes, he prioritize the list of product backlog, and he basically maintains the product backlog items. Then user stories and items. Friend, product backlog contains basically user stories, features, technical tasks, bug fixes, and other work items that contribute to the development of the product. Now here the user story is also a functional requirement. Let me give you an example that, for example, customer can log in into the e-commerce solution. It is a user story. Customer can see the product catalog. This is another user story. Customer can do the payment through the credit card, debit card. This is another story, user story. So normally generally product backlog contains the user stories. So each item in the product backlog should be written in a way that clearly communicates its value and acceptance criteria as well. Acceptance means that the criteria at which we consider that this story is completed or this story is done actually. Acceptance means that acceptance by the customer, that at which criteria we will consider that this requirement is fulfilled. Estimations. Friend, features mentioned in the product backlog are estimated based on the terms of complexity or efforts required for implementation. Here, friend, the estimation techniques used for product backlog is totally different as compared to traditional approach. Basically, we use the relative size of items and assist in planning and prioritization. For example, let me give you an example. For example, if story 1 is taking 2 days, for example, and story 2 is little bit more complex than the story 1, so we can say that story 2 will take 3 days. The story 1 was taking 2 days, so story 2 will take 3 days because it is relatively more complex than the story 1. Then release planning. Release planning means the product backlog is used in release planning to determine what features or improvements will be included in the upcoming releases. Releases means that once the things are completed, for example development, testing and deployment is completed, so you are releasing the working software to the customer. So product owner works with the development team to define a potentially shippable product increment for each release. Product increment means that the product, finished product, which you will receive, which you get at the end of each sprint. Once the sprint ends, you will get an increment, or you will get an product increment, that is called as product increment. That is basically the working software. The functionality which is added in the working software, it is called as working product increment. Always remember that product increment, that means that not only a single functionality, it means the whole functionality, added functionality is called as product increment. That means integration testing, unit testing, system integration testing, all those things should be working properly in the product increment. Then refinement and grooming. Now generally it is called as backlog grooming session as well. In these sessions, basically the team, Scrum development team, stakeholders discuss and clarify, potentially reprioritize the backlog items. That means the feature set which is available. With the passage of time, if there is any need to reprioritize the item, redefine the items, or for example there is any need to review and update the product features, so basically we can have our refinement and grooming session, normally generally called a backlog grooming session as well. So this session is very important, so to refine and groom the product backlog through the discussion with the stakeholder, through the product owner, through the development team. Transparency. Friend, the product backlog provides transparency in the product needs to be done and the priorities set by the product owner. It is accessible to the entire Scrum team and stakeholder, fostering open communication and collaboration. Normally, you can make a Google Doc for the product backlog. You can use the Excel sheets as well, and share these Excel sheets or Google Docs with the Scrum development team, with the stakeholders as well. So everyone knows that what is the status of the product, how things are going, what things are completed, what things are remaining. So product backlog is also a backbone of transparency and as well, so everyone knows about the work progress accordingly as well. Then backlog items and sprint planning. Sprint is a basically 3 to 4 week time period for it. Before we start a sprint, we do the sprint planning meeting, in which we decide the what work we have to complete for. So product backlog is basically the backbone here, where from the product backlog we select the set of items to work on during the upcoming sprint. So that is called as the sprint backlog. Actually, these selected items form the sprint backlog, and the team commits to completing them by the end of the sprint. So from the product backlog, teams select the item which is becomes at the sprint backlog. On those items, the sprint backlog team works throughout the sprint, and the end of the sprint we got the product increment. So product backlog is central and flexible tool in Scrum that helps manage the flow of work, maintain alignment with business goals, and adapt to changing requirements throughout the development process.